So I was gonna record with some stupid fish deck or something, but instead this awesome deck top-aided Grand Prix Singapore last weekend in the hands of Tae Jun Hao. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name, and hopefully coverage didn't butcher his name the way that they tend to butcher 50% of the Asian names in coverage. But yeah, he top-aided with this deck, and then there was a post later saying it was by Kelvin Chu. And so immediately I already liked this deck, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then I found out it was by the other guy who had figured out, in fact, for Pro Tour Seattle. I'm like, oh, so it's someone who's actually just really good at the game and the format who figured this deck out. And someone who wasn't him top 8 with it. This looks great. I'm all for this. Let's go. So really, we've had the Obzon company deck pop up that Brad Rutherford won the Portland Modern Premier IQ with about a month ago, 2 months ago now, I guess. But this is kind of the spiritual successor. That was Lyrapod. This is the Kiki Pod successor. And ironically, it's kind of flipped. So the Obzon Pod deck is actually just really combo heavy or the Obzon Company deck is now really combo heavy because it can be. Because Malira is now supplemented by Anafenza Kintry Spirit, and you play a bunch of that effect. You could always play a bunch of Viscera Seers and a bunch of Kitchen Finks, so now you can just load up on combo pieces. Whereas this deck, Kiki Pod, which is a deck that I was always huge on and thought it was insane and absurdly powerful and underplayed, this deck, being the spiritual successor to it, it's kind of flipped the script, and it's gone from being the combo version of the company deck, or the green combo creature deck, to the more grindy version. So, as you can see, if you look at these categories, I've got, Mana Dorks, the Silver Bullet Tutor package, and the Grind package. There's a lot more grindy cards, and, Path actually might even belong in here. I kind of set it aside, didn't know what to do with it. But as you'll notice, the big thing is that there's only 3 combo pieces. So usually in Kiki Pod, it used to be you'd play, I think even the grindiest list I ever played, which was Grand Prix Kansas City, I think I had 4 Restoration Angels, 2 Deceiver Exarchs, and 2 Kiki Gs, or maybe 1 Exarch at the least. So you had a full-on 7 combo pieces. This list has 3. Whereas instead you have a full 4 Voice of Resurgence, 4 Kitchen Finks, 3 Eternal Witness. This deck is trying to play a progressive game where it's generating a bunch of advantage that it can incidentally backdoor into a combo whenever it wants. So great. It's kind of worth noting about that because that's the kind of play pattern that's going to come up. Going through the individual cards, I don't know if 7 Mana Dorks is enough, but I will see on that. I know in Kiki, I don't think I ever went down past 9. But this deck, again, is bringing the curve down. You don't have as many Resto Angels. Pod was more mana intensive than Company, because the minimum on Pod was usually that you were activating it the turn you passed it, which is 4. And it only went upwards from there of wanting to play a creature and pot it away. Just there's a lot of things that Pod did that were mana intensive. You'll notice there's a bunch of Fauna Shaman on top of a bunch of Quarter Callings. You're really good at finding your Silver Bullet creatures. The choice of Silver Bullet creatures is kind of interesting in the main. You've got a Spellskite, which is good against Infect. Acceptable against Affinity, not insane. Just redirecting Ravager triggers sometimes matters. Though I guess in this main deck it doesn't really. There's no Rex Sage or Kasali Pride Mage in the main, which is really interesting. Phyrexian Invoker I really like now, especially with the Goryo's Vengeance Gristlebrand deck being a big thing. That deck's really bad at killing if it can't activate Gristlebrand. It can, through the breach, a big worm, but it's specifically through the breach plus the worm. Just Goryo's Vengeancing a Borborgamos. I guess you can, that deck has too many backdoors. You can Vengeance the Borborgamos, throw a land at the Revoker, and then set up for a Gristlebrand. But it's an extra hoop. Staticaster, again, continuing to go through the Silver Bullets, is it Staticaster's just busted. That card is... It just, wins you so many games for free for no reason. Scavenging Ooze, just a very powerful card. Almost a grindy card, but, enough of a bullet against, again, Goryo's Vengeance that it's worth, looking into. There's not 4 chords because drawing too many chords is a problem, especially in this deck without Wall of Roots. Multiples can get dead and clunky. Moving to the grindy cards, I'm actually kind of shocked there's not 4 Witness in the deck, because it seems like the collected company chains are really powerful in this deck. 4 Voice seems great. The Grixis decks moving to more grindy decks means that Voice is just at its best. None of them really have Magma Sprays. They have some Angers in the sideboard, but that card is pretty brutal. And then Kitchen Finks, just kind of your stock beatdown creature. I'm not sold on the pass main, but it's possible you just need some kind of interaction. Looking to the lands, we have 2 Townships, which is about all this kind of deck can afford. 22 lands, which is reasonable. I'll see how good it is or isn't. A Canopy is kind of a filler land that fits everything in. And the typical bunch of fetch duels that this deck kind of has to play. It's one of the drawbacks of playing this red, 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 blue, green, 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 white, white deck. Or I guess it's not white, white anymore, because there's no Linvala in the deck, which is interesting. I kind of would want a Linvala looking at it again, but we can get to more of those changes. Moving to the board, we've got Fulminator Mage, kind of a must-have against all the Amulet decks and the Tron decks, just as a way to interact. Keranos is your big grindy thing that you can find with Cord. Card was printed after I stopped playing Kiki Pod, but it was really good. And by after I stopped, I mean after the last time I reasonably had the ability to play it. Another Spellskite. Always good to have more Spellskites against, Twin, Infect, those decks. Especially Twin, because this deck actually cares about its specific creatures dying. Especially with Fauna Shaman being able to set up so much. That card is very powerful, but very fragile. Another Ooze, another big grindy threat that's also a hate card. The choice of Pride Mage over Rex Sage is kind of interesting to me. We'll see how that plays out. Pride Mage is a better attacking card, which might be the tiebreaker. I love the Negates. That card has always been great for me in this deck. Negate and Dispel are kind of your generic combo breakers that are just something that the Abzan list doesn't have. Fiery Justice is a huge blowout, and I'm really looking forward to beating people with it. I don't know if Stony Silence is better than the alternatives, but it is definitely the most brutal card to have in that slot. And it's probably more necessary that now that your deck has cut down on Restoration Angels and a couple of the other flyer slots, because that was like one way you just beat affinities to make a bunch of flyers and they couldn't kill you. Then extra path for more interaction in the fair matchups. Always like that. Always like having the most number of ways to kill Tarmogoyfs and Tassikers in this kind of deck. So, I'm about to start playing a match. Really interested to see how this deck plays out, because if it's good, I'm just going to immediately gravitate towards it for the near future. Especially because it's so flexible and so customizable that you can really just kind of beat anything you want with it.